Welcome everybody to Bugbears and Brews. My name's Brian, and today we're doing Storm King Thunder Encounter Recap number 6. So I will say this one here, the beginning of this session, I feel like I was a bit let down on myself and how I handled situations and that kind of thing, and I was hoping the initial part of the session would be a little bit better. There's some things that I didn't utilize the NPCs enough, and then the weapon I made was pretty, I think, unbalanced and led to an unfortunate character death. Luckily, we're able to revert that death. But it started out with you guys stumbling across a group of dwarves, a trio of dwarves. Hrothgar, Melvin, and Job were their names. Their cart broke down, and you guys were able to help them fix their cart with use of mending. Didn't do the best of jobs with the mending, but enough to get them through. On top of their wheel being broken, though, their mule ran away, and so they didn't have a way to pull their cart. It was getting later in the day, and so they offered, due to you guys helping them, offered them assistance with fixing their cart. They offered you guys Dwarven Hospitality, and so they thought, there's safety in numbers. You guys helped us. We are making you guys stay with us regardless of if you want to or not. From there, I think Melvin hung out with Pavik, Job hung out with Leovoril, and Hrothgar, who was clearly the head dwarf in charge, hung out with Vander as much as he could. Vander was kind of brushing him off, though. These dwarves were a trio of traveling merchants heading actually south where you guys were heading north. So they were heading to Amphil from Red Larch, where you guys are heading from Red Larch, or to Amphil, or to Red Larch from Amphil. However, they are now going to turn back around to Red Larch and go get a horse to help draw their carriage, since they don't have one due to it running away. The night went on. There was rumham involved, and people were eating and drinking and enjoying all sorts of fun dwarven hospitality. There was a hammer toss game between Pavik and Melvin. Neither of them did really well, assumingly due to too much rumham. And then was it Grimach that came over and threw the hammer and did well, or did he not do so well either? And there's another person. Either way, nobody did really well in the hammer toss game. It was just friendly bets, though, so no real wagers went on back and forth there, except for Pavik did win between Pavik and Melvin. And then I know there was a deal there that Melvin had to listen to Pavik spout on about Torm. And so Melvin wound up being a convert. Yay! Another convert down. The next day, you guys, like I said, decided to travel together. You went at a much slower pace because of the dwarves not having anything to pull their cart. So Hrothgar was having Melvin and Job pull the cart. And so you guys went at a pretty slow clip. And on the way to Red Larch, your guys' axle broke. You thought it was the wheel, and what's it called? Pavik mended the wheel but didn't look at the axle. The axle didn't actually break initially. It had a crack in it, but shortly down the road, the axle broke as well. And so you guys pulled off for the night to then repair that and would go into Red Larch in the morning, was the decision that was made. And the dwarves thought that was a really wise decision because they were really tired from pulling their cart all day. And that's when things got interesting. Close to the time of setting up the watches for the night, the dwarves attacked. And it turned out within the first or second round of combat that the dwarves weren't dwarves, they were doppelgangers. And they were looking to target the upper crust people of your guys' group. So that's why they went towards Leovoril and Vander. We're not quite sure why Melvin decided to hang out with Pavik and go after Pavik and take Pavik's identity, but I thought it was fun. So the weapon I made for the Doppelganger weapon, I think, is pretty imbalanced. I realized that maybe not so much imbalanced with assassination type characters. However, I did, when I initially designed this weapon, I designed it in mind of this is used for Doppelganger. Doppelganger's tactics are based on surprise and assassination. So what it was is during conversation, the Doppelganger could make the weapon probe the opponent's or a creature's mind for their worst fear. If that creature fails its save, it then the first time it is struck with that dagger, it is paralyzed until the end of its next turn. Normally, that's not a big deal. I think 1 round of paralysis is normally not bad. However, where the Doppelgangers also had a surprise round, that meant that the Doppelganger had 2 full turns against Vander when Vander failed his save. Which doing that actually caused Vander to die, which I felt really bad about because, like I said, I was expecting it to be a tough fight. A lot of surprise going on there, but I wasn't expecting to drop somebody without him having anything to do with combat at all. He got stunned during the surprise round, and then I think there was a crit during the surprise round, along with the additional assassination, 3d6 or whatever it is for the Doppelganger during a surprise round. So there's a lot of damage that went on there initially. And I think I wound up doing 50, 60 damage within the short window of time, and Vander didn't have any way to react because it was a paralysis versus a charm or a fear or something like that. Retrospectively, looking back at the weapon, I'd probably make some tweaks if I'd made it over again. However, it's now in the player's hands. I'm not going to mess with it. I'll let them have something a little bit overpowered. And the other thing is, it's meant to be used with something that you have conversation. The drawing of the fear thing has to be done in conversation. You can't be done in combat. So that kind of limits its use. But when you think back to we don't really do much murder hoboing. We do a lot of talking, even with the people we wind up murdering. So I thought they could actually utilize that later on. So from an enemy perspective, I thought it was pretty overpowered. And is it going to be overpowered on a character perspective? Probably not, because they're not going to be getting a whole lot of surprise rounds, I don't think. But another issue that came in with the Vander death was where the Doppelganger that killed Vander, Hrothgar was a Doppelganger that killed Vander. He laid down in the cart because Vander was sleeping in the cart, and by the time somebody peered over the wall, there were 2 Vanders there, and Vander was wrestling with himself, even though one was unconscious and the other one was trying to play it off that he was the real Vander, even though he was the Doppelganger. You guys eventually did discover the Doppelganger when Vander, fake Vander, threatened, what's his name? Grimac's pay. Grimac's not getting paid by Vander. Everybody else is getting paid. Grimac is not. Grimac is there to kind of watch and observe and kind of understand the meaning of peace that was offered initially by Vander. Not sure how much peace is getting out there, but from there, the other Doppelgangers went down pretty quick. They did do some decent damage, though, to the group. I think they only went after their single targets, though, excluding Vander. None of the other people went down. Not even like unconscious or anything like that, dropped to 0. Vander did officially die, though. We'll get to that later on. Searching the Doppelganger's loot, you guys found that evil sword, and it also turns out that that sword acts like a +1 sword, and then it can also transform between a dagger and a long sword as an action. So that's meant to be kind of like a sneak it in some places, the dagger, transform it into a long sword, go to town type of thing. From there, the next morning, you guys went over, put all their trade goods in your guys' cart. There were all sorts of various trade goods there that you guys distributed. I think it was just shy of 500-ish gold, give or take. Maybe I'm overshooting that. The other thing I will mention is there was a poker chip type deal with a golden goose on it. And you don't know the exacts behind that, but I told you I'll do some investigation on that and let you guys know. I know I told you it initially, and then I remember reading a little bit and saying, "Oh crap, that's like a plot point. Let's nix that information." We all did it. Men in Black, flash, forget that thing. So you have it, but you don't know what it ties into. In Red Larch. Red Larch is also kind of resorty, not nearly as bad as Amphil, though. It's probably like the last of the resort-type towns on that trade route that you guys are on. Not nearly as stuck up, though, as Amphil. So Pavic was able to preach without a permit. He wound up getting two? A couple more converts. So he actually exceeded his goal. No, he got 3 because he wound up with 6. It would have been 7, but Melvin was dead. And realistically, Melvin wasn't really a convert. He was just trying to learn as much about Torm. That way he could, pose as Pavic as long as he could. So Pavic got a couple converts there. Grimach made a small conversation with a bird, but that's kind of not known to everybody else. But just a reminder there for you, Mark. You did revive Leo Vorel, or not Leo Vorel, Vander, at the Temple of All Faiths. His family, they have a standing document that they sent with Vander, and it was good for 1 free resurrection of a party member. And so Vander is back and alive and healthy with us now. Setting out, you guys were getting ready to head off to what's the next town? Is the next town actually Tribor? I think the next town is actually Tribor. But as you guys were getting ready to head out to Tribor, Tundran let you guys know that through his playing, as a bard for that night to get his free room and board, he found out that there's hill giants to the northeast of where you guys are in the Somber Hills. And Pavic remembered, hey, we killed a hill giant that had Narcilla's effigy on him, and they said they came from the north. They didn't really specify from where in the north, but let's go check this out. And at first you guys weren't too excited for it. There were a couple of people, some wanted to go, some didn't. But after Vander went and talked with the constable and arranged 30 gold per left giant ear, I believe it was, you guys were much more excited to go and help Pavic out in, hopefully saving his friend. So that's where we're picking up next week, is with you guys heading off into the Somber Hills and trying to find Narcilla and the Hill Giants. Additional magical loot found was a Cloak of Protection that was also on the Doppelganger leader, and I think that went to Thessalon. Yeah, I think he took that without even anybody arguing or much discussion on that. Vander did wind up getting the sword. You guys thought it was kind of like a funny joke. Hey, you got killed by the sword. Here, have it. But thematically, it also kind of fits him probably the most. So no housekeeping. This week we will be level 4 heading into this. And then I'm thinking post this, venture in the mountains or Somber Hills, you guys will be level 5. That's my plan. My main thing is I want you to be level 5 by the time you hit Tribor. So, like I said, there's some things I liked about this. I really liked the second piece when we were in Red Larch and that kind of thing. And I liked some of the interaction with the NPC dwarves and you guys. I think combat would have been a little bit more fun with them if I would have turned all of the dwarf doppelganger guys to look like the people they were trying to kill. I think that might have made a little bit more challenge there. I think it could have made it a little bit more deadly, though, and I didn't want it to be like a deadly combat. I wanted to be at a hard combat, and it was off the initial, the initial turn or two, it was pretty hard. I think I had you guys close on the ropes, especially with Vander dying like immediately. That took you guys down to 6 players versus having the 7. Like I said, I feel like I could have done more with them, but I didn't want to take it to the level of killing you guys with that group there. And like I said, I'm just kind of a little perturbed with how I balanced that weapon. But now that it's in your guys' hands, who cares? Have fun with it. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.